Imagine you have a fungus, like a parasite that's famous for infecting insects in the wild. It
Ooh.
literally hijacks their bodies and, grows right out of their heads.
Which is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. But now imagine taking the complex sugars from that exact same bug killer and using them to heal human immune systems that have been completely devastated by radiation.
I mean, it sounds totally backwards, doesn't it?
It really does. It sounds
Hey,
completely
it
backwards.
really sounds like science fiction. But that's exactly where the cutting edge of modern pharmacology is right now.
Hmm.
We're looking at these natural compounds that don't just do, one simple thing, but they seem to literally rewrite the entire operating system of the body.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today we're exploring the microscopic, bizarre, and frankly astonishing world of cordyceps.
Yeah, the zombie fungus.
Right. And our mission today is to uncover the hard science of how specific compounds hidden inside this bug-infecting fungus might hold the secret to hacking, healing, and essentially upgrading your immune system.
And we're doing this by unpacking a wildly comprehensive 2024 scientific review titled Cordyceps polysaccharides, a review of their immunomodulatory effects.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, it was recently published in the journal Molecules. And the researchers synthesized decades of data, pulling from dozens of studies to figure out exactly what these fungi are doing on a cellular level.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll understand exactly how the massive, complex sugars extracted from this fungus act as literal chemical keys to unlock your immune system.
But to really grasp how this works, we first have to look at what we're actually extracting, right? We have to move from the macro view of the wild mushroom itself down to the microscopic active ingredients.
Okay, let's unpack this. When we say cordyceps, we're actually talking about a massive genus of fungi. I mean, the review notes there are over 750 identified species out there.
Oh, easily. It's a huge family.
But the research really zeroes in on two superstars. First, there's Cordyceps sinensis. This is the rare, historically significant one. It's famously expensive, and it's primarily found in the wild, high up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And it's actually the only one officially listed as a medicinal substance in the Chinese pharmacopoeia.
But because wild sinensis is so, astronomically priced and hard to find, we rely heavily on Cordyceps militaris.
Which is the substitute, basically.
Exactly. This species shares incredibly similar chemical capacities and medicinal functions, but it's highly commercialized because it can be cultivated artificially. It's the accessible substitute.
Regardless of which of those two we're talking about, the primary bioactive components driving these incredible medical effects are called polysaccharides.
Right, the sugars.
Yeah, but I want to clarify for you listening, when you hear the word sugar or carbohydrate, you probably picture like the simple white table sugar you stir into your morning coffee.
Oh, totally.
But that's not what we're dealing with here at all. Think of these specific polysaccharides as highly complex skeleton keys. They aren't simple, they are these massive, branching, three-dimensional structures.
Like glucans and galactomannans.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is the sheer structural complexity of these sugar molecules. The review goes into incredible detail about their massive physical scale.
We're talking huge molecular weights, right?
Yeah, massive weights and incredibly specific ratios of different simple sugars chained together. It's the exact physical shape of these massive branches, like the unique jagged teeth on a physical skeleton key, that determines how they mechanically slot into the receptor locks that sit on the outside of your immune cells.
And what I found amazing in the review is how we actually get our hands on these keys today. Obviously, you can extract them straight from the fruiting body of the mushroom itself.
Sure.
But there's been a massive breakthrough with artificial cultivation, right? The review mentions extracellular polysaccharides.
Yeah, the liquid culture breakthrough is a total game changer. Scientists can now cultivate strains of the fungus in a liquid broth.
Just like a vat of liquid.
Basically, yeah. And as the fungus grows, it literally secretes these massive active polysaccharides directly into the liquid.
Oh, wow.
You just harvest the broth. This means we can extract these incredibly potent compounds without needing to forage for wild, insect parasitizing fungi at all. It makes the medicine scalable without destroying the natural ecosystem.
So we have these massively complex skeleton keys floating through your bloodstream. What actually happens when they bump into your immune cells and unlock the door?
Well, the review details the effects of these polysaccharides on three major classes of immune cells, starting with macrophages.
And these are essentially the frontline scavengers of the immune system. Their name literally means big eaters.
Right? They patrol around, look for pathogens, and physically consume them.
But they have different operational states, don't they?
They do. And this is where the cordyceps sugars do something really remarkable. They physically bind to the macrophage and shift it from what's called an M2 phenotype, which is a resting state, into an M1 phenotype.
And an M1 is the active one.
Exactly. The M1 state is highly active, aggressive, and tumor-killing. The polysaccharides massively boost the cell's ability to physically eat the bad guys.
Wait, let me stop you there. Because if a macrophage is resting, which honestly sounds like a good, healthy, peaceful state, you're saying it can actually be a bad thing. How does a resting cell help a tumor?
That's a great catch. Resting sounds completely harmless, but tumors are incredibly manipulative.
How so?
Well, a growing tumor will actively release chemical signals that force the surrounding macrophages into that M2 resting state. It essentially pacifies the guards so the cancer can grow unbothered.
Oh, that's devious.
It really is.
Yeah.
So by forcing the shift back to M1, the cordyceps sugars are essentially slapping the guards awake and handing them weapons.
And they don't just wake up and eat things, right? They start screaming for backup. Because when that massive sugar key binds to the outside of the cell, it trips a biological tripwire inside. Think of it like breaking the glass on a fire alarm.
That's a good way to put it.
That triggers the cell to release emergency sirens, these specific proteins called cytokines, to wake up the rest of the body.
And the cells responding to those sirens are the dendritic cells. If macrophages are the frontline soldiers, dendritic cells are the intelligence officers.
Okay.
Their whole job is to capture a piece of a virus or bacteria, hold it up, and present it to the rest of the immune system to organize a highly targeted attack.
And the polysaccharides give these intelligence officers a massive functional upgrade. They physically increase the density of the chemical ID tags on the surface of the cell.
Right, the MHC5I and CD86 molecules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they basically get better megaphones and higher resolution mugshots of the enemy.
And who are they showing these mugshots to? The lymphocytes, your T cells and B cells.
Exactly. The research shows that the sugars promote the proliferation of both T and B cells. They stimulate the lymphocytes to multiply and coordinate the attack. But hold on. If this fungus is just blindly stepping on the gas, forcing macrophages to attack, tripping fire alarms, making T cells multiply, couldn't that cause the whole system to go into overdrive?
Yeah, that's a valid worry.
Like, couldn't it trigger an autoimmune response where the body just starts attacking its own healthy tissue?
That's the most logical concern, and it brings us to a crucial distinction in the research. These polysaccharides aren't just blind stimulants. They're immunomodulators.
Meaning they balance things out.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, their true function is restoring balance or homeostasis.
Okay, so it's not just a gas pedal. How does it know to hit the brakes?
Well, in a suppressed state, they step on the gas. But the review points out that they also regulate the peacekeepers of the immune system. We have specific cells called regulatory T cells, or TREGs.
And they calm things down.
Their entire job is to suppress the immune response once the threat is actually gone, preventing that exact autoimmune damage you mentioned. The polysaccharides interact with these peacekeepers, especially in the gut lining, ensuring the immune system knows exactly when to power down.
So we know these sugars can whip a single macrophage into shape in a petri dish and, balance out the peacekeepers. But what happens if the whole immune system has already been utterly destroyed?
Like in severe medical treatments.
Yeah. If there are no macrophages left to train, let's talk about the animal models in the review where the immune system was intentionally devastated.
Yeah, the researchers looked deeply at in vivo models simulating the severe side effects of treatments like chemotherapy and radiation.
That's heavy stuff.
It is. For chemotherapy, they used a drug called cyclophosphamide. It violently suppresses the immune system, wiping out white blood cells and causing massive intestinal dysfunction. The body is left practically defenseless.
But when they gave these severely compromised mice the Cordyceps polysaccharides, the recovery was staggering. It restored the white blood cell counts and physically repaired the intestinal lining.
We see a very similar rescue effect with heavy radiation too. In models exposed to heavy cobalt-60 radiation and X-rays, the immune system was decimated at a cellular level.
Right.
But the application of the polysaccharides accelerated the recovery of bone marrow and significantly boosted the animal's survival times.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Imagine your immune system after heavy radiation or chemo is like a coastal city after a devastating Category 5 hurricane.
Okay, on track it.
The infrastructure is totally gone. The roads are washed out, the emergency responders are missing. What these massive sugar molecules do is act like an elite disaster relief agency. They don't just drop off a few extra white blood cells.
They rebuild the factories.
Right. They rapidly rebuild the actual factories.
Yeah.
They physically increase the weight and function of the thymus and the spleen, the vital organs when new immune cells are born and trained.
And the researchers actually identified the specific relief workers doing this. They isolated one purified massive sugar molecule.
NCSP50, I think it was called.
Yes. And what they observed was that this enormous physical structure acts locally in the damaged small intestine. It physically interacts with the local receptors there to trigger a cascade that directly increases the number of vital T cells.
Oh, wow.
It isn't just floating around randomly. It's a highly targeted repair mechanism rebuilding the city's infrastructure from the ground up.
So we've seen how it rebuilds a completely wiped out system, but what happens when the immune system isn't dead but instead is actively being tricked? Tumors, for example, are incredibly deceptive.
They really are.
Yeah.
In the review's analysis of Lewis lung carcinoma models, they detail how tumors survive by creating a localized suppressive environment.
Like we talked about with putting macrophages to sleep.
Exactly, but they also have a cloaking device for T cells.
How does the cloaking device work mechanically?
It's a specific protein interaction, usually involving the PD-L1 and PD-1 axis. The tumor cell holds out a surface protein that physically binds to an approaching T cell.
Like a handshake.
Sort of. That
Oh.
connection essentially sends a signal saying, hey, I'm a normal, healthy cell, don't attack me.
Wow.
But when researchers introduced a specific Cordyceps polysaccharide, it physically interfered with that connection. It blocked the tumor from using that protein. It basically stripped the tumor of its cloaking device, suddenly allowing the immune system to recognize and attack the cancer.
And this hacking applies to viruses, too. The review showed it protected mice against influenza A, literally reducing the virus in their lungs.
Yeah, the antiviral response was clear.
They even used the sugars as an adjuvant, like a booster, for a vaccine in chickens, and it made the vaccine much more effective at producing antibodies.
But here is the pivot. We spent all this time talking about boosting, activating, uncloaking, and rebuilding. Let's talk about asthma and allergies.
Okay.
Because in mice induced with allergic asthma, the immune system is hyperactive. It's wildly overreacting to a harmless allergen, causing severe airway inflammation.
So what does this all mean? If I have asthma and my immune system is already freaking out, why would I want to take a fungal compound that we just spent 10 minutes proving activates the immune system?
It seems completely contradictory.
Yeah, won't it just boost my asthma attack too?
This raises an important question, and it goes back to the idea of the biological thermostat. But we have to remember, the sugar isn't smart. It doesn't have a brain. It can't consciously tell what temperature the room is.
Then how on earth does it know to suppress the asthma but boost the flu response?
Think of it as a perfect biological buffer. These polysaccharides are massive, complex shapes. In an immunosuppressed state, those immune receptors are sitting empty, so the sugar keys easily slot in and turn the system on.
Okay, makes sense.
But in an asthmatic, hyperinflammatory state, the body is already flooding the system with its own frantic inflammatory signals. When you introduce these massive cordyceps sugars, they essentially wedge themselves into those same receptor doorways.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they physically get in the way, blocking the frantic allergic signals from connecting and triggering more inflammation.
Oh, wow. So they aren't turning the dial down intelligently. They're just blocking the doorway because they're so big and perfectly shaped.
Exactly. In the asthmatic mice, the cordyceps extracts successfully suppress the allergic response. They reduce the inflammatory antibodies like IgE and calm the airway by physically inhibiting those hyperactive signaling pathways. It modulates the system back toward the center by sheer physical buffering.
It really highlights how physical shape and structure in biology can be so much more versatile than our traditional single-target synthetic drugs, which makes me wonder, if the sinensis and military species have these perfectly shaped keys, what else is out there in the wild?
Well, the review doesn't stop at the two famous species. It dives into several obscure cousins in the Cordyceps genus.
Like what?
My favorite example is Cordyceps cicadae.
Hmm?
As the name implies, this specific fungus grows exclusively inside the nymphs of cicadas buried underground.
That is incredibly specific and, quite frankly, terrifying for the cicada.
Oh, very much so. It's a rough way to go. But the polysaccharides extracted from this highly specialized cicada fungus possess the exact same immune-modulating properties as the ones from the lab-grown liquid broths.
Huh.
They increase natural killer cell activity and enhance macrophage function. Nature has conserved this incredible biological toolkit, these specific sugar keys, across entirely different insect hosts over millions of years of evolution.
Now, if you're listening to this, you might be ready to run outside with a shovel and start digging up cicada nymphs right now. But hold your horses, mice. Aren't humans?
A very necessary reality check, yeah. The review is completely transparent about the limitations of the current research landscape. The vast majority of the data we just walked through comes from studies on isolated cells in petri dishes or animal models, predominantly mice.
And mice are great for proving a concept, but they have completely different metabolic rates and immune quirks than we do.
Right. It's highly encouraging that the fundamental cellular tripwires, these sugars, target pathways like NF-kappa and MAPK, or deeply conserved shared pathways between mice and humans.
The basic biological plumbing is the same.
Exactly. But rigorous human clinical trials are the absolute mandatory next step. We have to figure out exact human dosing, long-term safety, and how these complex sugars interact with human-specific diseases over long periods of time.
And there's another massive blind spot the researchers point out. We still lack a deep understanding of the exact structure-activity relationship.
Right, the missing map.
Exactly. We know that the physical shape of these massive sugar molecules dictates their function. We know that if a branch on the sugar tree goes left instead of right, it changes how it fits into the immune cell receptor and blocks that doorway.
Sure.
But we don't have the complete map to predict exactly which shape gives which command.
Decoding that structural language is the absolute frontier.
Yeah.
Once we understand precisely how the physical arrangement of simple sugars translates into a specific immune command, the possibilities are endless.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to ponder. If we finally decode that map, if we learn exactly how the physical shape and branching of these Cordyceps polysaccharides dictate their interaction with our immune cells, what happens when human technology finally catches up to nature's design?
It would be revolutionary.
Could we one day use this ancient fungal blueprint to literally 3D print our own synthetic designer polysaccharides?
I mean, it would completely upend modern pharmacology.
Imagine a future where we don't rely on toxic chemo or blunt force immunosuppressants. Instead, we rapidly manufacture custom-tailored sugar keys designed to uncloak your specific cancer or act as the perfect physical buffer for your specific autoimmune disease without a single side effect.
Simply by turning the body's own immune thermostat to the perfect temperature.
Exactly. The future of healing might just rely on embracing the magnificent complexity of a mushroom that grows out of a bug.
Nature has already done the hard work. We just have to read the blueprint.
Thank you for joining the conversation and exploring the microscopic marvels of the natural world with us on this deep dive.